Our Showbox stories this year are sponsored by our friends with CowManager, and I have joining me today from CowManager, Jared Krull. Welcome, Jared.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Jared, so to really set the stage for our Showbox stories and this partnership that we have with you during World Dairy Expo this week, I got to ask, is there a Showbox that was part of your life growing up as a kid showing cattle that you remember?
Well, it's been a very long time. At home, we have a locally bottled soda, in a glass bottle, and it's kind of a treat to have. So, 20 years ago during the fair, that was something that went in the Showbox and is definitely very special to have. And I'm not saying that, we drank the whole thing at once, but it was probably in one night, it made it easier to stay up, for an obscene amount of hours as well.
And what was your home county fair growing up?
Shawano.
Shawano County Fair. So I have a good feeling you were drinking Sundrop.
Sundrop.
Yeah. So if you're from Northeast Wisconsin, you know Sundrop. And so that was the special thing that was in your Showbox as a kid, huh?
Yeah, and it kind of carries on. So at the home office now, we have an office in Shawano. In the fridge there, we do have bottled Sundrop for everybody to share with.
Oh, so you have continued to open up the Showbox in the office and share the Sundrop with the team at CowManager. And so, Jared, you've been part of the team for how long now?
So I've been working with CowManager probably for 12 years now.
And so with your role there, you are working with your team and also working with dairies that are implementing this technology to enhance productivity and to make workflow more efficient. What are some of the biggest mindset shifts that you see in that first year of adaptation?
Like the first year, a lot of it's about building trust. But once they build that trust, there's other things we can do besides just labeling which cows are sick, which ones are in heat. We have something called the transition alert, which is, it kind of labels the animals, with a 80% reliability that any of these animals that are going through a transition period more than likely will have some sort of sick alert within the first 21 days after calving. Those are things that we add in, and there's a whole long list of other things we can add, but that's one of the big ones that I start with. I think the biggest return on investment for that health alert is probably in the fresh pen.
That leads us to the next part. As you have more information, as you're able to monitor more things, then it comes integration with other on-farm management systems. So how does CowManager integrate with other systems that dairies may already be using for their herd health, for their records, for their management?
Yeah, so from day one, we're already setting up an interface with most of the time they have some sort of on-farm management. The most important thing before we install that system is that we get the herd file into CowManager, because without the cows that they have on herd, we can't really take the animals and actually link it to an animal. So that's step one. But once we have a two-way integrations, I would say the possibilities are limitless. The one thing that I really appreciate about the dairy industry is a lot of times that I'm having these things, it's over the kitchen table. And the most successful dairies that I work with, we bring in, the team on a quarterly basis. When we can all collaborate and work together, and find common ground on different protocols and things like that, that's when I see the most success. And the numbers normally, follow that as well.
Well, excellent. Well, Jared, thank you for joining us this morning on behalf of CowManager and also for supporting our series this week here at World Dairy Expo, our Showbox stories. And also, thank you for sharing that special one that's near and dear to your heart from a Showbox you had as a kid growing up in Shawano County full of Sundrop. So thanks for jumping on. CowManager delivers 24/7 real-time data to help producers enhance herd health, fertility, and nutrition. At World Dairy Expo, the company unveiled its latest innovation, Find My Cow Flash, designed to help producers save time, reduce labor costs, and increase daily efficiency. To learn more, contact your CowManager Specialist at select sires or visit CowManager.com. Well, we are back with our special Showbox story series here at World Dairy Expo. I'm joined by Tim Abbott here from Showbox Sires. And Tim, you have specifically picked out a very special guest to round out this series today, a good friend of yours who I'm sure has some great stories about you tucked away in his Showbox. But what we're going to do today is open up some of the stories about his life, his journey, and impact on the dairy industry. Tim, I'm going to toss it over to you to introduce our guest for this episode, Larry Schirm.
Well, thank you, Peggy. It's great to be here. I'm going to review one thing about our contract. This is not an interview with me, so I want to make sure that Larry doesn't get telling too many stories. But it's my great honor and privilege to have our next Showbox talk about a guy that I love to sit on the Showbox with and talk to. Larry Schirm, certainly an industry icon, a true mentor of Tim Abbott. When I was a kid, Peggy, growing up in Vermont with Jersey cows, Larry was at the top of the game in the Jersey business as a sire analyst with Alta. I actually sent him a letter about a cow of mine or two, and I wanted to be Larry Schirm when I grew up because he was well-spoken, he was a great judge, and a great guy. So Larry, I know that's a mouthful, but truly one of my mentors. Welcome to our series.
Well, thank you, Tim. That's very humbling. Actually, you grew much taller than I, so you surpassed me in many ways, and I commend you for that. But thank you for this opportunity to visit and reminisce a little bit.
And Larry, we really want to dig into your story, and let's just start with telling us a little bit about the journey that brought you from your growing up as a kid to what's been a successful career in the dairy industry, and some of the highlights and key people who have been by your side along that path.
Well, Tim mentioned Jerseys, and of course, that's how I grew up. I grew up with Jersey cows just southeast of Columbus, Ohio, in a town called Canal Winchester. And that had me geographically close to the Jersey Cattle Association as I grew up, which was very fortunate to me. That kept me close to some very special people that came through the Jersey Association, led by Jim Cavanaugh in the day when I was young, followed by Maury Core and others. But where I would start is my dad bought me a Jersey calf when I was a teenager for $910. Her name was Generators Angela. She was in the pot of gold Jersey sale, Tim, that Jersey folks had only for youngsters to buy. And Cedar Crest had consigned this calf. Little did I know that 5 years later, I would be purchasing another generator daughter from her maternal sister, from the maternal sister of my original calf, a cow called Generator's Imp. She sold for $9,000 this time, not $900. And it was $3,000 more than any cow had ever sold for at the Kentucky National at that time. Kentucky National used to be the place where the premier Jersey cows often came from for the year. And this was in 1974. And I learned something about auctions at the time because I was bidding, and there were two people bidding in the rafters. It turns out one of them was bidding for Lou Porter, and one was bidding for Bob Lord. And they had way more money than I did. I partnered with a lady doctor from Columbus, Ohio. Anyway, we bought him. She went on to be 96 points, made 25,000 pounds of milk, which was unheard of in the day.
That's right.
For a Jersey. She was a dam of Favorite Saint and Milestones Imperial, some famous bulls, and was voted the second greatest cow of the last century next to Generator's Topsy. So that launched me, that generator daughter called Imp. So that was quite a launch.
Maggie, because I'm gonna interject a little bit of history. So Larry was a National Jersey Youth Achievement Contest winner, as was I several years later. The first animal I bought in the Jersey Pot of Gold sale was a heifer called Magic's Accord Rosebud, bred by Larry Schirm.
Oh, you're kidding.
So there's a lot of connections there. And Rosebud did not do for me what you're not. I think I paid more than $900 for Rosebud. And
Thank you very much. Yes.
But maybe I allowed you to buy Generator's Imp. So that's a
thank you,
story.
Tim.
Larry, I didn't realize, first of all, 25,000 pounds of milk from Generator's Imp was amazing.
Yes.
But secondly, $9,000 for a cow of that generation.
In 1974.
Was a lot of money.
That's a lot.
A lot of money.
But you referenced two people I want our listeners particularly our younger listeners, to learn about. I've talked in this podcast about one of my other mentors, Bob Lord. You can talk about where he came from, but then go to Lou Porter, if you would.
Well, let me start with Lou because I want to tie Bob in a minute.
Okay.
My dad knew Lou Porter because Lou had came to my dad's farm and bought a cow years before that went to Happy Valley. So I had been introduced to Lou. But then in 1972, after I graduated from high school, I went to Happy Valley for the show season. So that was my fitter career, working at Happy Valley in 1972, which turned out to be the year of the fire in Columbus when that barn burnt. But there was a fella at Happy Valley named Bob Fenberg, who some in this podcast may have heard of from days gone by. So that was an experience just in of itself. And in 1988, there was this calf that my son Dusty had picked out for my dad when he was a youngster. We took him into a pen of calves. There was about 5 or 6 calves and said, Dusty, pick out a calf. And there was this one with a white switch on, or a little bit of white. And we were kind of thinking he did pick her. And she became really good. And as a junior yearling in that day, we took her to Harrisburg. And I'm in the ring, and Dick Keene's judging. And Lou Porter has a calf, a heifer, and Bob Lord has a heifer. And Dick pulls us, and he's pulled me second. And somehow I got squeezed in between Lou Porter and Bob Lord. And I'm like, what are you fellas doing? I'm still a young man. And I'm learning some things. And after the class, a fellow named Bert Stewart said to Dick Keene, he said, Dick, you might have missed a heifer here. Bert made sure I knew that he talked to Dick. Anyway, so, a week or two later, we're out here at Madison, and Mike Deaver, who I was associated with by now, because I'd began my career in AI at that point with Carnation. And so Mike clipped her for me out here. And Mike was always on the cutting edge of fitting. And he brought the hair down really short on the top line. The point of my bringing that up is when I hit the ring out here, there was a heifer there from Canada that had this beautiful whack of hair. And I knew right away when Brent Walker brought that heifer in there that was my competition. So it was going to be banging heads with Brent Walker. Well, Dr. Lowe from Indiana, Max Lowe, was judging. And he looked at him and looked these two heifers and looked at him and looked at him. And he chose our heifer, who ended up being junior champion. He said her top line was more natural. So that was credit to Mike Deaver at the time to give our heifer an edge. So those are some early things about those fellas.
And interestingly, you talk about your $9,000 purchase, back to Generators Imp.
Yes.
So you were bidding against the Rockefeller family from New York via Bob Lord. You're bidding against the
Procter & Gamble
family from Happy Valley, and young Larry Schirm from Canal, Winchester, Ohio.
Fortunately,
hook or by crook.
Jim Cavanaugh had connected this lady, MD, from Columbus, and she wanted to buy a nice cow but didn't really have a place for her. And he put us together. So,
great.
Yes.
That's great.
So, so there have been some pretty incredible connections that really just set this path for your own life and career.
Yes.
Connections that even extended to influence yours, Tim.
Yes.
Where else? Tell us about more of that journey and where some of those connections along the way really led you to where you're at in your career.
Well, let's take a little more of the Tim Abbott connection for a second.
Yeah, let's go there. Good.
And Tim worked at Jersey early in his career, and I had worked at Jersey. I'll come back to that. I had been the first Jersey marketing manager under Morris Core, who was a true mentor for me. In 1991 or 92, Tim was invited to judge Expo Milk in Brazil. And guess who went along? Guess who represented Jersey? Young Tim Abbott. So Tim Abbott and I traveled together to Brazil to judge Expo Milk. And we had a bit of fun on that trip, and it was a great experience.
Got to know each other well.
Got to know each other well, and that sort of launched my international judging career as well. And I think I've judged about 30 national shows in countries outside of the U.S. over a period of time. So
Peggy, he's done it all. He's been in AI. He's owned cattle. He's mentored people. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the past 2 decades. We've got to the first. That's funny, Larry. We get to multiple decades. We don't have to go year by year anymore. We go by decade.
Decades.
Tell us a little bit about where you've been the past couple decades.
Well, let me say, in the 90s, I ran the sire program, the purchasing of the sire procurement at what was Landmark Genetics, became Alta Genetics, the original Alta. By that point, I was spending a lot of time in multiple countries, sometimes to go judge, sometimes to do genetic workshops and other things like that. So my career was affording the opportunity to be on farm in many places and see what's going on in a lot of different countries. And how do you bring the genetic understandings that we have here in this part of the world to the rest of the world? And one of the things I wanted to say in this podcast, some of the things you learn out here, some of the things you learn in caring for animals doesn't change whether you have 1 or 1,000 or 10,000, etc. Each individual animal has to be properly taken care of. So that matters. But when it comes to breeding, the good ones come from the good ones. We understand that in the show ring. The good ones come from the good ones. Same thing as in a herd of 10,000 cows. The better animals in that farm, their mothers were the better animals the generation before. The same principles apply. And that's one of the things I found fascinating, whether I'm dealing with someone with a few cows or thousands of cows. That principle does not change. And that's the kind of dairyman speak, farmer speak that you can have with anyone around the world.
Peggy, one of the reasons Larry is so popular to speak around the world is because he can do cow speak with genetics. And he just did a nice example of that, because you can talk the language. How is, since Generators Imp, you watched a great Jersey show yesterday.
Yes.
How has our cow changed from the champion cow in the middle of this beautiful Coliseum behind us, from Generators Imp, in the past 50 years? What happened?
Consistency. And that comes from getting the good ones from the good ones from the good ones from the good ones. The consistency down the line is incredible. And you can go down the line many cows, and they would have done very well 20 years ago. I think, Tim, it's the consistency that happens that we've been afforded. We've line bred the genes that we want. And I think that's the difference. Some dairymen say, well, how much are they going to milk? Well, let's start with getting all the cows in your herd at the top level. That's the difference. This is the consistency. I think genomics has added some consistency because we've increased the accuracy of the information we have.
And I'm interested to hear your perspective on that, Larry, because you lived the genetics life before genomics was this tool.
Absolutely.
That fast forward,
Yes.
forwarded genetic progress in the last 15 years or so. And so you're a cow guy from through and through, from early on.
Yeah.
And you talk about consistency. And when you say that, I can't help but think about cow families.
Absolutely.
And the value that brings. But balance that out between how you look at cow families today and what genomics has done, in that regard. How have those things complemented? Or have they in your mind? What do you think?
Yeah, they have complemented. Thank you. And the importance of cow families is every bit as important as it ever was. What genomics does is tell us earlier in a heifer or a young bull's career whose genes he inherited or she inherited from mom and dad. It used to be we would go look at the early young sire daughters of a bull to get the patterns. And a lot of what I was looking for, do I see mom in them? Do I see grandma in them? Or, what part of the pedigree is consistently showing up? When I would find a pattern from the pedigree, then I knew how the bull would breed. Then I knew. So that's how we would use them as a sire or sons, et cetera. And that worked out fairly well. With genomics, we get an early indication, okay, they've inherited udder traits from this part of the pedigree, et cetera. That's what genomics really does. It gives us an earlier window without having to wait to see all the daughters of a bull. We know up front, with really high reliable consistency, what part of the pedigree they inherited or didn't. And that's how we separate bulls. That's how we separate the females. Did they get mama's genes or grandma's genes, et cetera? So the families are every bit as important as they ever were. And
now you have another tool to accentuate those traits.
It speeds up the process. That's really what it does. And it increases the accuracy, and dairymen are learning more and more. They can use this information in their herd, so they can raise their calves from the better females in their farm and not from the problem ones. The way to eliminate problems is to not raise a heifer from the problem one.
Before we lose this on genetics, I think we've had a great genetics lesson from Professor Schirm. I want to talk more about genetics because I knew your mom and dad.
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Schirm were two of the finest people you'd ever meet. Larry's mom was kind of like the Queen of England to me. She was that lady. She was beautiful, delightful, pleasant, and
she's very gracious.
Very gracious lady, as was your dad. Pass it down to you. Tell us about your family, not just your
family. I've been blessed to have 3 great kids, 2 daughters. Most of you know Dusty. Dusty's my son, who I couldn't be more proud of. He and his wife Nicole, and they're 3 boys, and they've been very blessed to have the situation they now have at Misty Meadow Dairy. They love where they're at and what they're doing. My oldest daughter, Amy, Dusty's older sister, is now a grandmother, and she has 4 kids, and my younger daughter, Heidi, has 3 kids. So I have 10 grandkids, now a great-granddaughter. But the person that keeps me in line and keeps me straight and keeps me going, of course, is Julie de Laverne. And she's been my wife and partner for 30 years now. And that's been one of the highlights of my life, is to spend time with Julie.
Aww.
So
you have done some incredible things, Larry. You have been to many places. You've been in the middle of the ring. You've been on that halter. But the accomplishments that at the end of the day are most meaningful to you is that family, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's true. Thank you for saying that. That is the most meaningful. Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to finish our discussion off script, okay? That's why you like me, Peggy.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to play the rapid fire game with you, Larry. I'm going to give you some names, and you tell me the first thing that pops into your mind when I give you the name. You ready?
Go for it.
Best cow you've ever seen.
Beyond Generators Imp?
Well, of course. And Magic's Accord Rosebud.
Wow, that's true. I mean, Nadine was one of my favorites, and I'm a little prejudiced there because I had the chance to lead her a couple times, and she was such a dream. One of the reasons I love that cow is she was the easiest cow I ever led. She was so well trained, but she knew who she was. She knew she owned the right to be the queen out here.
Well, and she was. So I thought that might be your answer. Maury Core.
Clearly my number one mentor. Unfortunately, I live close to where Maury worked at Jersey, and of course he became the CEO. He gave me my first job in Jersey marketing, and finer gentleman there never was. Real quickly, Tim, one of the things I loved about Maury, of course I knew him well, when you'd see him at an event like this and you walk up to him, he'd say, Morse core, to shake your hand. And when I was younger, I used to think, well, he's just being Maury. But as I've gotten older, Now I know why he did that, because those of you closer to my age will remember. You see faces that you well know. It's like so you say your name and hope they'll say it.
One other connection between us, Maury gave me my first job as well.
Okay,
So more of the same path.
Aw.
A couple more names. Pete Blodgett.
that was my second mentor. Pete brought me into the AI business. Pete knew the history of the Holstein breed, well, many breeds like nobody ever saw, and new pedigrees. And he taught me very much about breeding, and I'm forever indebted to Pete. He was my boss and my mentor, and gave me the chance to be in this business.
Couple more quick ones. The Rankin family at Cedar Crest.
There's never been finer breeders in the Jersey breed than the Rankins, and they understood way early that nice type cows needed the milk, and good milk cows needed the type to exist and work with. And they did a masterful job of combining. Back in that day, we go back 50, 60, 70 years, there was sort of a type bloodline lines and production bloodlines. And the Rankins combined the two for the Jersey breed in a masterful way.
Well, Peggy, we've got a lot of history in this half hour.
We sure have.
Had a great walk down memory lane. Larry, we're going to have to reconvene this with more podcasts because we love to pick your brain on this stuff. But before I let you finish, Peggy, and Larry will let you finish as well, thank you. One of my mentors, dear friend. Thank you for doing this. This has been really fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing us to capture your story. But really, it's just this journey of incredible connections to people, the connections that the two of you had before you even realized that years later we'd be sitting down having this conversation. And it's truly what makes this industry so special and what makes it so unique to sit right here looking at this World Dairy Expo Coliseum right behind us. It brings us all back to the same places and to this little corner to sit on the Showbox with you today. And so, Larry, thank you again for jumping in with us on this special Showbox series.
Well, Peggy and Tim, thank you for the opportunity. And you guys are doing a great thing. And the Showbox is something that brings us all together.
Oh, thank you. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and thanks for listening to this Up-Level Dairy podcast. Don't forget to follow, rate, and share. And as always, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. CowManager delivers 24/7 real-time data to help producers enhance herd health, fertility, and nutrition. At World Dairy Expo, the company unveiled its latest innovation, Find My Cow Flash, designed to help producers save time, reduce labor costs, and increase daily efficiency. To learn more, contact your CowManager Specialist at select sires or visit CowManager.com.